What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone. I'm here with JT Hayes. I'm here with Draft Cheat. I'm here with the like and subscribe button. So please do that before we dive in. We really, really appreciate it. We're going to kick it off with the man in the hat, JT Hayes. You have a new little look going here. How are you doing? How is your little vacation in Chicago or work trip in Chicago where you're doing who knows? And what's up with the hat?
Yeah, I like the personification of the like and subscribe button. First off, I think that's really something that I think we should let the inferior host here, right? I mean, I won't say his name, but he's a guy that lives near DC in Colorado.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
Right. No. Let him know about it. Yeah, I spent a few days just outside of Chicago, about an hour, I think, to the south in the Plainfield Joliet area, and it's a pretty hectic schedule. I was up at 5:30 in the morning. Then I had to do some more stuff at night, and just really wreaked havoc with me getting into Discord. But I got in there today, and I was chatting with Yermin. You guys have met Yermin, right? He's going through the change, right, from Hector to Yermin. And so he changed his name, and he asked me if I was going to wear a wig, and I said, maybe. And I don't have a wig lying around the house, believe it or not, but I have this beautiful hat that I got in South Carolina at one of my cousin's weddings last year. And I decided to throw it on because I'm in a good mood. It's Friday. We got a lot of good games. I'm actually going, as soon as this show is over, guys, I'm very excited about this, honestly. I'm going to the Braves game. It's Julio Urias against Ian Anderson. And I'm really excited about that. So long trip, long work week. And now I get to spend time with two of my favorite people in the world and Simon. I mean, who's got it better than me?
No one has it better than you, JT. I wish I wanted the Hawks to lose that game so I could be in Atlanta with you. I was going to go to that Knicks-Hawks game on Friday, but hey, I wasn't able to make it. I would be in Atlanta with you, JT, but not able to. DC, we got to talk about this. So JT's going to the game. I mean, guarantee you got to do a game stack, right? It doesn't matter who's on the mound, at least for the most part, right? I know it's Ian Anderson and Julio Urias, but is JT supposed to do a game stack here?
Lost a lot of money game stacking bad games.
You absolutely have to. It doesn't have to be your main team. It doesn't have to be a high dollar entry, but you got to put the game stack in the big DraftKings, right? $18 a day to win $50K. It's part of the price of admission going to a baseball game is you got to stack the game up at least once. Then you also got to make one in this situation. You got to make one with both starting pitchers, right? Maybe you get the pitchers duel. They're racking up strikeouts all game long. You got to have some fun with it, right? You only live once, and money's not everything. So have some fun. And I'll tell you, I have been, here in Denver, I have stacked up Coors Field a few times when it's worked out. I've had a full game stack on a 10-9, 13-7 game. It is a lot of fun when you got all your entire offenses from the game and everyone's hitting bombs and every at bat you're like sweating live. Doesn't get much better than that, so you got to do it, JT.
I'll tell you, the one thing I will say is my seats are the third row just to the foul side of the right field foul pole, so right next to the chop house. And you got Cody Bellinger tonight. You got Max Muncy. We always have Freddie Freeman in the house, right?
Even Acuna can go Oppo for sure.
Ozzy from the left side. You're right. Justin Turner, Riley could put one out there. So, all right, you guys talk me into it. At least one lineup's going to be a game stack of that game, even though I don't think there's going to be a lot.
Will Smith, I like him tonight. No, they're a lot. There
you go. There you go.
And I'll say this. Julio Urias, good pitcher. Going from Los Angeles, into Atlanta. I don't know if he's ever pitched there before. That's a big change. I don't know. There's something to be said for that. So
it's nice and hot here. It is nice and hot here too.
It is. Yeah, summer here too in Denver. Finally summer. 90 degrees today. We do have Coors Field this weekend. It's going to be 90 degrees basically all weekend long. So yeah, maybe we'll see some offense. Although the Rockies, they just can't hit it. It doesn't really matter who's pitching or where they're playing. They're struggling to hit. So. Good stuff. Looks like a pretty awesome 15-game slate, right? Really don't have many weather issues. Maybe a slight concern in New York, but I think they're going to play. So looking forward to this one for sure.
Yeah. Hashtag how rich, JT, with the nice seats, obviously. You got a good little spot. Here's my question for you, though. So you said you are in a spot where you can catch some balls, right? Do you bring a glove to the game? Are you like, what's the age you stop bringing the glove, or do you bring
There's
it
no
to
way
whatever?
JT I'm saying no way he brings a glove.
No, JT's not a glove guy, but what is the age? Like, I got to poll everyone, right? It's a question people always ask, so I need to ask it.
For me, the age I stopped wearing a glove to the game, like when I was 10.
Yes.
Like when I was 10, that was it. I was done. I was playing baseball. I wasn't worried. A ball comes to me, I got no problem. I'm catching it with my bare hands, with my teeth if I have to. Yeah. Now I'll catch it in my beer. It's no problem. Maybe I'll bring this hat.
Yeah, catch it in the hat.
It's a really fucking nice hat. So maybe I bring the hat, and if a ball comes near me, I just put it in the hat, a little basket catch, and you'll see me on SportsCenter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you would love to see it. Maybe have the Run Pure Sports shirt on while you're doing it, right? I should. But DC, what about you? I mean, what's the age you stop? I mean, I'm in the kind of camp of you. When you're a kid, you stop after being a kid. You catch that with your bare hands like a man. You're 40, right? So, what do you do there, DC? Do you grab that thing with your hand, or do you grab a glove?
So I do generally agree with the take that if you're just going to a game, especially on a Friday night, you can't be showing up with your gloves as a grown ass man. I do make one exception though. I'm a big batting practice home run guy, especially in Coors Field, left field. They've got all the bleachers. You get there early and you can catch, 3 or 4 batting practice home run balls if you bring your glove. So that's the one exception I make. That's pretty fun to do, especially if you go with a friend or a kid or something like that. So that's my one exception. But other than that, you can't be bringing your glove to the game.
Yeah, I think I'd give the pass to like the dad that brings the glove, so the kid brings it, right? Or like
sure, yeah.
I think
the kid wants to bring a glove. He wants you to bring their glove. You gotta cater to the kids a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? The kid might not want to really. I don't know if I want to. You convince him to that. Just stuff like that. So I think that's the only passes I'll give on that. But. No. It was fun to talk about that. I know you guys both went to baseball games recently, right? You went to the Rockies game. Did you go to a good one, DC? Was there a lot of runs scored? I can't remember.
Not enough runs, but the Rockies did pull out a narrow win. So it was a fun game overall. We had a good time.
Nice. Well, hopefully JT can get a good game as well. We should dive in and talk about the slate before, the chat gets a little cranky. You know how they are. They like to talk about, we got to get to that. We didn't even talk about basketball. Don't worry, guys. We'll talk about the baseball here right now. I'm going to go to you, JT, before we dive in. Give me a little bit of a slate overview, right? DC kind of broke it down a little bit earlier, 15 games. It's a nice little slate. What's some of your thoughts looking at it here?
Yeah, I was so first thing, I get up this morning. I was up early because I was flying out of O'Hare and open up my laptop in the Sky Club. I'm hanging out with the free Wi-Fi, and I see the pricing on Tampa Bay. And it was just a great way to wake up and enjoy the morning with a nice laugh, right? And I was telling the guys in Discord, I saw that they had priced G-Man Choi at 5.1K. And I looked at the pricing there, and I just laughed. And I said, well, obviously, we're not playing these guys in this park anyway. But it's 15 games. I think this is the first 15-gamer that we've had this year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the second. We may have had a Tuesday 15-gamer, but a lot of the past couple of Fridays, you've had the afternoon game at Wrigley and the 6:40 games in Cleveland and Cincinnati. So a lot of top-tier pitching, a lot of high-priced top-tier pitching. You've got Max over 11. You've got Wheeler close to 11. You've got the guys in Coors who are just ridiculously overpriced. DC made fun of me when I talked about Kikuchi's price one day, and I said, this is the price that I play him at. And he said, they pitch to that. And no, they don't, of course. But if you understand the DraftKings algorithm, right, it's allegedly driven by performance as well as by their popularity. And you see guys like John Gray at 9K in Coors against one of the most powerful offenses in the game. And then you see Frankie Montas, who's been very inconsistent at 9.9 against a Rockies team that is really, really, really bad on the road, but got their act together somewhat yesterday. Of course, Mike Fultonavich will always help you do that when he's pitching on the road. And then we've got some interesting spots, right? We've got a spot in St. Louis, which is, as we know, it's a park where they have a newly installed humidor. And you've got a ground ball pitcher that's a below league average guy. But the Cincinnati Reds are very cheap. You've got Blake Snell against the Mets, who have been really bad against left-handed pitching, but Snell has been bad himself. But it's in San Diego. And then you've got the Cleveland Indians starting a guy who's a rookie, and he's going to go about 60 or 65 pitches. So there's a lot of different things to talk about on this slate in terms of roster construction, which way we're going to go. And Just before we came on, I was looking at some ownership, and I saw that, Max, Blake Snell, Shohei Ohtani, all going to be higher owned than Freddie Peralta, who gets a Diamondback team that, put up some runs last night, but that I've been targeting right-handed pitching against them for really since the beginning of the season. So it should be a pretty interesting slate.
Yeah, overall should be an interesting slate. Tons and tons of pitchers to talk about. Before we do that, though, guys, again, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you have not signed up for Run Pure Sports, head on over, use that promo code RPSEater25 to get 25% off and get access to every DFS score, right? We have MMA this weekend. We got the NASCAR. We got everything that you want. It's not just MLB. It's not just NBA. We got all the content you need. We also got Showdown, right? For the Clippers game and the Dallas Mavericks game tonight. So we have it all over here at Run Pure Sports. DC, dive into the pitching for me, though. I mean, people love getting your pitcher takes at the top. I was listening to the podcast with you and Uncle T today, and you talked about, hey, like Max Scherzer might not be the Max of old, but this Max could definitely take down this slate, right? And he certainly can. I think he's interesting, and he's dueling against Wheeler at the top, right? You have a lot of guys above that 10K range that you can go to, right? Scherzer, Urias, Anderson, Wheeler, Peralta, Ryu, tons and tons of options, DC. What are you doing at the top?
Yeah, for me, Max does kind of stand out among these guys that are 10K plus. What is there? 6 of them? Yeah, Scherzer, Urias, Anderson, Wheeler, Peralta, and Hyunjin Ryu. I think Max is the best pitcher among these guys for sure. And I also think he's got, in my opinion, the best matchup of all these guys. Going on the road, like the thing with Max Scherzer, if you look back over the last few years or, since he's become Max Scherzer, and I think he's pretty damn close to his peak right now. Maybe not all the way there, but 95% there. He is like the best pitcher of all time against right-handed hitters, and like still a very, very good pitcher against lefties. But there is a true platoon split there. Only 2 lefties in this Phillies lineup tonight against him, and they're not the worst lefties in the game. But I mean, Odubel Pereira and Brad Miller are, 2 at best kind of mid-pack hitters there, and then the whole rest of the lineup, all 7 other guys swing from the right side. I kind of think Max is going to shove here. I mean, he's expensive. He's 11.4K, but it's a 15-game slate, and there's been plenty of value on DraftKings all season long. That's certainly true once again tonight. So you can easily fit Max. Like, I'm not playing Julio Urias really in Atlanta. We touched on that briefly. I just can't do it. Ian Anderson against the Dodgers. Again, both these guys could have good games. I'll pass. I do kind of like the counterpart, right? From Max Scherzer, Zach Wheeler has been incredible this year. I've been a little bit slow to come around to him, but I'm on board with him. And then, I think Freddie Peralta is a fine option too. You worry a little bit about how deep he's going to go into games, but they have let him throw 100 pitches in each of the last 2. Again, a lot of lefties, I think, probably in that Arizona lineup is a little bit concerning. So, these top guys, and I'm not going to play Ryu against Houston. So these top guys, I would rank them, for me, Scherzer, Wheeler, Peralta above 10K. I'm not touching either Coors pitchers at 9K plus. I mean, these guys aren't even that good of pitchers anyway. So no thanks. Blake Snell, I'm just never Blake Snell. I know he had that one big game against Colorado a couple starts ago. But like even that one, I mean, it was 30 DraftKings points at 8,900. Like great performance, not like, some huge thing that you absolutely needed to have. So even in a great matchup, I have no interest in Snell. You got to get down to the mid-range for me before I'm kind of talking about rostering other pitchers.
All right. Before we go to JT, DC, we have one question in the chat that we got to get answered. He says, Mango, can you ask DC if he thinks Max uses the sticky stuff and might falter like Cole did yesterday? Can you explain that to him? I don't know exactly what he's asking, so I'm curious to hear what you got there.
I'll try to keep this brief because that was on the premium show, so maybe you guys didn't see that. So MLB came through these last couple of days, tweets from all the big names, John Heyman and I think Rosenthal, that they're going to crack down. There's going to be a 10-game suspension if they catch you using the foreign substances to get higher spin rates on the baseball. It's what led to the Garrett Cole breakout in Houston. Almost certainly his spin rate spiked massively when he went from the Pirates to the Astros. And if you remember, Cole wasn't that good when he was with the Pirates. He was, an above average pitcher, but not that great. And then, so this was announced basically these last couple of days, kind of trickling in information. yesterday, Garrett Cole's spin rate dropped precipitously on his fastball to the point where you can say almost without a shred of doubt that he was not using the same substances that he has been using the last 3 or 4 years with Houston and the Yankees. He also ended up with, one of the worst starts of his season yesterday. I don't think that's much of a coincidence, frankly. So there are pitchers who there's no question that they're using this stuff. Garrett Cole is one of them. Trevor Bauer is one of them. There are many, many other pitchers using it. It's not as clear who is and who isn't, but if you dig into the data, you can find the spin rate on every single pitch that's thrown by every pitcher in baseball all year long. And you can and look back at previous years and you can get a pretty good idea. I haven't dug into Max. My suspicion is he is perhaps not using it because he was this dominant before the sticky substances came into, it came into prominence. It really came into prominence when remember, like they had the juice baseball that was the seams were lowered a little bit. This was back in 18 or 19. And I think that the pitchers kind of came up with the substance to kind of counteract that, right? It was a new baseball. They couldn't grip it quite well. They needed this to counteract the new baseballs that they couldn't grip as well. And obviously seeing how well it works, you can get your spin rate up to 10 to 20% from pitchers that don't use it. And they just kept using it, right? It became more and more prevalent and spreads throughout the game. So long-winded answer there. The short answer is I wouldn't be worried about Max tonight.
All right. JT, Simon said, I can't use the sticky stuff anymore, and I've done so far so good on this show. I have not made a mistake. I think I've gotten through a couple innings with no earned runs. JT, do you have any takes on this sticky stuff that the pitchers have been using?
Yeah, so just from the broader overall take of Major League Baseball now absolutely scrambling to try and figure out how to get more offense in the game.
They're so reactive instead of being – it's just –
but it's funny because I talked about this on the Mayo piece I did a couple of weeks ago. They're worried and concerned now because there's no offense. And we even see it in our contests where stacks aren't taking down these contests anymore on most nights. It's 3-2-2s. It's a last night in, I think, a guy with a 3-2-1-1-1 won 6 or 7 of the contest. But baseball is scurrying, trying to figure out how do we get more offense after spending the last 5 years playing around with the baseball, putting these humidors in now 10 ballparks that make the ball travel a lot less further. And they're like, well, I wonder what happened. Where's the offense? Oh, it must be launch angle. It's not. It's not. They keep messing with the natural elements of the game. And then, okay, instead of 9 innings, we'll play 7-inning doubleheaders. I don't really mind that so much. But this runner on second base in extra innings, I mean, it's kind of negligible for DFS. It's been positive some nights and negative others. But I think their concern all of a sudden really just completely overlooks the fact that they've caused this, right? They've caused this situation. So the thing that you do want to keep in mind, though, is, and DC mentioned this, you've got 6 pitchers over 10K. And I can rule out, I think, at least 4 of them. Let's say 3 of them right off the bat, right? Ryu, I'm just laughing at thinking about using him at that price against Houston, right?
Well, unless you're going to the game, JT, then you might have an Anderson.
Right. If you're going to the game, if you're going to the game and you have an extra $20 that you know you're never going to see again, right? Urias and Anderson, the opposing offenses, if they were like 7 or 8K, it might be a decision point where you say, one of these guys could get to 25 with a win if they go 7 innings, right? You know that neither of these managers are in a rush to get to their bullpen these days, the state of the Braves and the Dodgers bullpen. But at 10-4, whatever Anderson is, at 11K for Urias or whatever he is, there's no shot. There's just no shot. So now you're focused on Max, you're focused on Wheeler. And I think Wheeler has been a better pitcher than Max this year, at least so far. And I've been surprised by that. But think about it. Let's say they were getting even a 10% boost from a substance of some sort. And now we know clearly, because again, DC mentioned this, Cole hasn't been the same this year. He's been kind of that inconsistent guy where he's going to give up 6 home runs one game and strike out 12 the next. So do you want to spend your salary on 2 of these guys, or do you want to look to maybe the mid-range and get what we got maybe out of a Desclafani last night, which turned out to be the second highest performance of the night?
All right. Well, that was a good breakdown from you guys. I won't give my breakdown of it, but we got you guys did such a great job. So It definitely could be helpful moving forward. And some of the chatters definitely loved it. So again, if you liked it, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Again, helps us a ton to give you these free shows. You didn't get that take yesterday on the free show, right? You got it on the premium show, so you got it here now. JT, talk about the top-end pitchers, though. You and I were discussing a little bit before the show. It sounded like you had some interest in a little Freddie Peralta. Do you still think that's the case? Are you paying up for Max? What are you doing with all these top-end owners?
Yeah, I got to take a closer look at Freddie. DC brought up a good point. They do have a bunch of lefties in that lineup. I tend to not worry as much about Arizona on the road. And you and I were talking before last night's game about that game, about the Diamondbacks. And I said, I kind of, at least last night, I didn't love them last night because, one, they were going on the road, and two, all of those Brewer big arms in the pen were healthy. And Devin Williams pitched last night. Josh Hader pitched last night. So it gives me a thought that I think that Craig Counsell is going to want a few more innings out of Freddie Peralta. If he's pitching well, he could get at least 6, maybe into the 7th inning. And there's a ton of swing and miss on this Arizona Diamondback team, even from the left side against right-handed pitching. The lineup for the Phillies is not a great lineup by any means, but almost like we see the Detroit Tigers do on Sundays. They get up to play these stud pitchers. They just did it. I mean, Sonny Gray is no Max Scherzer, but they just destroyed him. Again, a different park, a different situation. I kind of think Wheeler almost has at least as good a matchup against this Washington team right now as Max Scherzer does. The other thing with Max is we've seen him come out of games early. I don't think we see that tonight because I do think that this is a game where you're not going to see a ton of runs. So going past that, I think you can certainly look at Shohei Ohtani to have a bounce back game after he pitched really well for the first 4.5, 5 innings against the A's, and then just gave up a couple of runs to really move that performance downward. But he gets a Seattle Mariner team that did get to Griffin Canning last night. I'm with DC. I don't think I'm going to use Blake Snell tonight. I mean, the Mets did pick up Brandon Drury, a noted lefty masher, right? Total joke there, by the way. But I think that's where I see it. As far as lower than that, I do not particularly mind thinking about and taking a look at Cody Poteet for Miami against Pittsburgh in a park that really isn't great for offense. And we saw what Elieser Hernandez did to the Pirates yesterday. No reason to think that Cody Poteet, who has looked every bit as talented as his resume, can do something similar at his 6.6 price point on DraftKings.
All right, DC, how about you give some of your thoughts on everything JT said? I mean, I love that he said, like, Wheeler, pairing up with Max. I don't hate that strategy sometimes, right? Like putting guys in the same game together. You think it's going to be low scoring. There's a 6.5 run total, and like Washington bullpen's not that great, right? So I'm sure that's kind of baked in too, where that helps out. I think that's a game there could not be a lot of runs. And like, talk about Poteet, right? Is a cheaper option. Tons to discuss here with these cheaper pitchers. I know they don't fit what we've been looking at DraftKings because it's easy to get in cheaper options, DC, but it's a path that not a lot of people are going. So some of these cheap guys are definitely in play.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of a 6-pitcher slate for me. We got Max up top along with Wheeler. Those are the 2 guys that I'm willing to spend up on. Beyond those guys, like I mentioned, I'm not going to the 8 or 9K range. I think most of those guys are just overpriced for what I expect from them. You got to get to the 7K range where you kind of get my interest peaked once again. Ohtani, I mean, it's against Seattle. We know how talented he is. You don't know which version of Shohei Ohtani is going to show up from night to night. There's no way to know, frankly. But obviously, if it's good Ohtani, right, against Seattle, I mean, you're talking probably 10 plus strikeouts if he's got his good stuff rolling. So at 7,600, you have to consider him. It's kind of a tough slate for pitching. I think a lot of these guys I'm not really even willing to consider. So Ohtani is on my list. Same price tag as him. Kyle Gibson returns from the 10-day IL. He pitched well in his last outing, finished 6 innings against Houston. Pitched well against Houston twice in a row, which is pretty impressive. Back at home here, I don't actually think he was hurt at all. We're going to see, I think, a lot of these kind of phantom IL stints throughout the year because of the low innings count that all these guys pitched in 2020, right? It's just innings management. They just can't pitch the whole year long, or teams think they can at least. So I think Gibson's fine, right? I wouldn't be worried about him coming off the IL. I think he'll be good to go. I think he can go up to 100 pitches, just normal Kyle Gibson. And a 7,600 at home. I know Tampa has a decent lineup, but I'm still not that scared of it. There's still plenty of strikeouts to be had. So I do like Gibson at 7,600. And call me crazy, but I am willing to use Luis Castillo again. Man, he has just been absolutely dreadful. I still think he will turn it around sooner rather than later. The stuff is all still there, still throwing hard. I think he's fully healthy and all that stuff. So I still like him at 7,300. He's a 10K talent pitcher. Matchup's okay against St. Louis. I like that it's warmer for him. He's kind of got documented history of struggling when it's cold. We saw that early in the year. So I like Castillo a little bit at 7,300. I'll probably have some exposure there. And the last guy is Cody Poteet. JT mentioned him. I've been kind of on him all year long. Like he wasn't even on the slate his first start. And then he's been on some weird slates. And then he faces Boston in Fenway. Of course, I'm not going to use him there, but in Pittsburgh, 6,600, I think he's a legitimately pretty good pitcher. I'm not trying to claim he's an ace or anything, but I think he's a solid, number 3 type pitcher for a team. That's a pretty good price point for a guy who can give you, 6 innings again in a good matchup, in a good pitcher's park. 6,600, why not? So Cody Poteet, certainly on my short list tonight.
JT, what about Castillo, right? He's been a mystery. Definitely a guy that you expected him to be a lot better to start this year. And the price is cheap, though. 6.6. I mean, that's not a bad price tag at all. He gets a ton of righties here from the Cardinals, which could be obviously playing to his favor, but it also could go the other way where you just want to stack it up. So what do you do with Luis Castillo at this 6.6K price tag?
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to avoid him. I looked into his underlying metrics. His underlying metrics are not that bad. It's not like this is a guy with, some crazy barrel rate or hard hit rate. It's actually hard to imagine how the hell he's giving up this many runs.
I think he legitimately hasn't pitched as well as in the past, but he's clearly been the most unlucky or one of the most unlucky pitchers in baseball. I don't think it's just not really up for debate. I mean, if you just look at all the metrics, he's not that different from what we've seen in the past years.
The BABIP is definitely high. So the BABIP is high, but as someone who pitched and plays the game, you could see in his body language, this is more of a confidence issue at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
And the reason why I'm off him is not so much the fear of him getting blown up, because that's happened almost every time he's gone out. My thought process here, if I'm managing that team and I get 5 good innings out of Luis Castillo, I'm sitting him down and letting him rest and letting him think about, hey, I just pitched a good game, and get him right for the rest of the year, because
leave a little something in the tank, right? Get him.
Well, leave on a good note. Note. Maintain that confidence and build it and get back to normal. Because right now, they're not looking for, okay, we need 8 innings, 7 innings, 10 Ks out of Luis. They're looking to get Luis right. And if that means that they have to, sacrifice a game and let him just go 5 innings if he pitches well, I think they'll be willing to do that. So I'm going to stay away from him. I don't necessarily have interest in the Cardinals, but the way he's pitched, I couldn't blame you if you did. So that's my plan with Castillo tonight. There's too many other spots that I think are decent spots that I don't need to take on that level of risk here, right? DC did mention Kyle Gibson, and I did look at Kyle Gibson, and I don't mind him because, first of all, I'm not going to play any of these Rays in that park. It's a huge park downgrade. They just beat the absolute piss out of the Yankees and Garrett Cole yesterday. It's a perfect game for them to maybe slide back a little bit, maybe not have their head as much into it after traveling down into that huge stadium that is much less of an offensive powerhouse.
Yeah, I want to talk about some stuff we got going on in the chat here. We got a bunch of middle-aged men giving us some fashion advice. K. Felique, he's talking to you, JT. He says, you don't look good in that hat. And we got someone, J10, saying, I need to trim this beard up. Like, when did this become the Rump Your Sports fashion chat, DC? What's some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, listen, if you're coming to me for fashion advice, you have gone somewhere recently down the wrong path, right? Like I'll give you the spin rate and the sticky substance breakdowns. You don't want to become an old DC for fashion advice. Maybe JT, I mean, that hat looks fantastic to me. I disagree with Mr. K. Falick, but I got to say, I'll help out where I can. Fashion advice, not my strong suit.
I mean, who is this? What is this name?
K. Felic.
K. Felic? Who's K. Felic? Is he a member? Is this the free show or the premium show?
Well, all I know is this is the free show, and all I know is if K. Felic is thinking he's a fashionista now, right, or fashionista, whatever he wants to go by, he's the chart man. Stay in your lane, get those charts going, get us some baseball charts. I don't know what the equivalent to that is, but I don't know if that's his.
I mean, that's just, first of all, it's not even hurtful. It makes me angry. Kaflick. I mean. Second thing, I do want to get to this because someone in here is very upset, very agitated. K-Flick, hey, Simon, get rid of this K-Flick guy. He's really annoying to me. But someone's talking about, hey, what about Josh Fleming? And I do want to talk about this because it's amazing. So a Tampa Bay Ray pitcher pitched a complete game yesterday, right? Not Tyler Glasnow, right? No, it wasn't him. Ryan Yarbrough. And you got to give credit to Ryan Yarbrough because that was a fantastic performance. He did what Garrett Cole could not do, which is take advantage of the outside edge of the plate at Citi Field, even though he was pitching at Yankee Stadium. That's how wide the strike zone was. I'm not going to go back and play Josh Fleming here in this matchup. I just don't know. I mean, DC, do you see any reason to consider Fleming? I mean, I will say Austin Gomber, who I played on the early slate yesterday, did shut down this Texas team. They are bad against lefties. But because Ryan Yarbrough pitched a complete game yesterday, now Kevin Cash has every toy available to him in that bullpen. And I think at the first sign of trouble, Josh Fleming is going to sit his ass down.
Yeah, I mean, Fleming has one of the lowest, K per nines of any starting pitcher in baseball. He's been an effective pitcher, certainly limiting runs. He's a ground ball master. But like you throw in the super low K percentage, K per nine, whatever stat you prefer, along with a median projected pitch count of 80, 75, 80. You're looking at, even against this team, 3 or 4 strikeouts. I mean, what's a strikeout prop? I'm sure it's right around there. So just not enough upside for me at 6K. I do think he'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like,
this was a 6-game slate. If it were a 6-game slate and I didn't have any options, maybe. But who am I going to play him over, right?
I think he's a safe play, but I just don't think you're getting more than 15 fantasy points very often. I'm not sure that's going to be enough on a 15-game slate, especially in a tournament. I actually think he's an okay cash game play, to be honest, because I do think he's relatively safe, but tournaments, just not enough upside for me.
All right. Before we kind of break down the final thoughts on pitcher, DC, someone said I need to use the old Manscaped here on my beard. Tell the people real quick about the podcast and about the Manscaped stuff that we got going on the promo.
Well, Manscaped has a brand new lawnmower, the version 4.0. Now, I've been thinking 3.0 has been working pretty well for me, but 4.0 must be even better. So maybe Big T will have to send me a new Manscaped package in the mail, along with finally, hopefully, some RPS gear so I can be styling like Mangone during the shows. But yeah, they do sponsor our podcast, Run for Your Sports. You can find it wherever you find your podcasts, whatever app you use, Apple, StreamYard, whatever it may be. And varying guests from the RPS community. JT Hayes himself joins me once a week, typically on the show if he doesn't big time me and he doesn't have to go to travel to a business meeting or something of that ilk. So yeah, great show Monday through Friday. Check it out. And what do you know? Maybe you'll learn a thing or two.
Brutal schedule this week. We need the RPS. We need an RPS fedora, by the way. Who is this clown in the corner that just
I just like to come in. I just like to come in for a minute and tell you that I have a little bit of power that I can't get booted from shows. I can actually show up on shows. Number one. Number two, I never said you didn't look good in that fedora. Yeah. I think you look fantastic in the fedora.
Get rid of him. He's upsetting me.
You look fantastic in the fedora. It's hard to take you seriously when you wear a fedora, as does it for anyone else that wears one.
That's hurtful. I mean, that basically says that you think JT kind of looks like a clown, and that's hurtful.
No. I believe that the fedora is a great look, but when we're talking business, it's tough to believe in the fedora.
You take him seriously otherwise without a fedora?
Lastly, Mangone.
Correct. Yes.
I think your beard looks fantastic currently, but I will add in, as a personal beard wearer as well, it gets itchy if you have the neck going a lot. So I personally think it looks perfectly fine, looks great, but it's a little itchy at times. And on that note, I hope you all have a great day. JT, it's great to see you back. DC, I loved our conversations yesterday. Simon, thanks for letting me in. Goodbye.
That segment was brought to you by K Felix Fashion. Whatever. I don't know. He's doing his own fashion.
Sponsored by Brazzers.
Yeah, sponsored by Brazzers with me.
I think our viewership just got cut in half these last 2 minutes.
Maybe Simon can pull out the Brazzers gift for me for my play today for old time's sake. That's a good one. But that was too good. Let's break down the pitching, like the final thoughts, and then we'll move on over to the hitters. DC, give me your rankings at the pitcher, and then we'll go to JT.
Going Scherzer, number 1. I will go with Cody Poteet, number 2. This is kind of points per dollar or tournament rankings. Then I'm going Gibson, Ohtani, Castillo, and then back up to Wheeler. Those 6 guys.
All right, JT, give us your pitcher rankings here. Who do you got?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I do lean. I am thinking about going with either Peralta Wheeler or a Peralta Poteet, depending on how my offensive shakes out. Just because we've seen, and on this slate, he might even get a little bit more ownership than that because there are a bunch of teams in good spots that are really cheap. We've seen where it's not a bad idea to kind of lay off of the top owned pitcher on the night. And if Max is going to be, 40+% on a 15 game slate, I have to believe that there are paths outside of him throwing a complete game shutout, right? Which we saw one of those earlier this week. There are paths to finding the way to the top without Max Scherzer if he's going to be more than 40% owned. I don't dispute that he's probably the top arm of the night, just more of a tournament consideration. And then I really don't think I have anything to add to that list of DCs. I will say, and someone mentioned in the chat, Eovaldi, I'm not going to pitch him. I don't believe I'm going to use him tonight. But if you're looking for a 2% owned pitcher, there's probably no better team to pick on right now than the New York Yankees.
I don't hate it.
Yep. Yeah. One last thing I want to touch on before we move on from pitchers. Someone did ask in the chat earlier, they asked me for my pitching thoughts on FanDuel specifically, right? So let's discuss that a little bit because there is some interesting pricing dynamics over there. You got Max Scherzer. He's 11.2K, right? Which I lean trying to get him in there, but then you got Blake Wheeler at 7.9, which that's a really nice decrease in price. And I know FanDuel, it's easier to get those cheap bats in there, but Freddie Peralta is 8.7, and Freddie feels like a really strong play. Part of me is leaning either Max or Freddie as my favorite pitching option on FanDuel. You got Wheeler at 11.5. Ohtani is 9.5. I don't know if you guys see any other prices that stick out, but that's kind of the breakdown on some of the FanDuel pitching pricing. Let's talk about that real quick. JT, we'll go to you first.
I think in terms of FanDuel, what you say, Peralta is
8.7, and when Snell is 7.9 and Scherzer's 11.2, it just feels like a really nice discount you're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of FanDuel, I certainly don't think, especially if Snell is going to be over 20% owned, I would stay away from him there. I think on FanDuel you want to limit it to one of those. I would say Max, Wheeler, Peralta, Ohtani maybe. Or would you go Poteet on FanDuel? I mean, it depends. If you wanted to stack cores, right? You're probably going down to that lower.
He's 6'9", so you could go that route if you wanted, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I don't mind Poteet, especially coming off of a game where he kind of had his first not good game, but he still pitched okay in real life. I think he does better here.
DC, how about you? What did you think of some of those FanDuel prices there on the pitchers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I still think paying up for Max, we know there's enough value on FanDuel, right? To pay up for Max if you want to. It does seem like there's good options up and down the pricing spectrum though. So I guess maybe my piece of advice would be to get your hitters in there, get your 4x4 stack if you can and kind of see who fits, maybe change out one hitter if you need to. But yeah, Freddie Peralta, I think a great option there at 8,700. And then, you mentioned Poteet. He is 6,900 there. I mean, I'm certainly willing to go down to Luis Castillo at 6,600 if there's a expensive stack that you like. Maybe you want to play Vladimir Guerrero and Matt Olson and Coors, and I mean, there are bats, Ronald Acuna, like there are bats to pay up for. Fernando Tatis, like all the hitters are on the slate. So a lot of times when we're talking FanDuel, we're saying, oh, you can find hitters wherever you want. Well, you can't find hitters like Fernando Tatis and Vlad Jr. and Ronald Acuna, right? Like I know there's some good cheap options, but you can take a pitcher who clearly has upside. There's no question in my mind Luis Castillo has upside if he finds it. Whether or not that'll be tonight, I can't say that. But I do think a clear path to the top would be to pay down a pitcher for Luis Castillo, who does have 10-plus strikeout upside. There's no doubt in my mind, and take all the best hitters and go from there. So, I think multiple directions you can go with FanDuel, as is usually the case, but especially here, I think there are pitchers, at the top end, bottom end, and everywhere in between that look like pretty good plays to me here.
All right. If you guys could, again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, helps us out a ton. Please hit that like and subscribe. We got tons and tons of content over here at Run Pure Sports, and we want you to check it out, right? We got MMA shows sometimes. DC, is there an MMA show this week? Is it a big card, small card? What's the MMA slate looking like?
Yeah, smaller cards. So we do them for every UFC pay-per-view show. Me, Titletown, Joey Work, 11 Eastern time. So that'll be back next Saturday, not this Saturday, but a big card next Saturday, three main event fights. So that'll be fun. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. So check that out. Free on YouTube, 11 Eastern time, anytime the UFC has a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and all you do is subscribe. And if you don't want to get the notification, right, pops them on your computer, just turn the bell off. But if you want the notification, put that bell on. But it helps to kind of show you whenever you pull up YouTube, it shows you if it's on or shows you in your recent. So that's always good to do. So you can catch all the content that we have, all the free stuff over here at Run Pure Sports. But let's go on over and talk about the catcher position, where Mr. Salvador Perez, he is the man. He hit 2 bombs yesterday. You'll love to see it. Definitely helped me out a ton. Helped JT out as well. JT, are we going back to Mr. Salvador Perez, or are we going to another spot?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to like him again. It's hard not to like the Royals again in this matchup against Matt Shoemaker. I mean, he has just looked like maybe he's on his goodbye tour here, his last couple of starts. And his price didn't move, Sal Perez's price, right? So he's still priced at 5-1. So definitely some interest there. I think there's a couple of other guys. I mean, Tyler Stevenson for the Reds is 2.6K if he's in the 4-hole on DraftKings. You've got Nunez for the Rockies. Unfortunately, he hits 8th, but 4.2K in Rockies in that matchup is not bad. And then you have to like, and this is one of the guys that I was looking at catcher all day long, especially if he moves back up to the top of the lineup, which he's done a couple of times this year, more frequently recently against left-handed pitching. Wilson Contreras at 4-4 against Scott Kazmir. That's pretty enticing.
I also think one cheap guy you go to is Tyler Stevenson against Kim. I don't hate him at 2-6, batting in the cleanup spot. Not a bad punch.
Who's that? Who's that, Mango? What's his name?
Tyler Stevenson.
Tyler Stevenson? Oh,
yeah.
All right. Oh, I didn't know. I don't know. I couldn't remember if that was the first guy I mentioned or.
I don't know. I must have.
Mangone's not the best listener. You got to work on your.
Mangone takes a nap when we're DC. Mangone will turn it over to us and be looking straight ahead at the camera, but he's actually like taking a nap.
I'm reading the chat, and I'll tell you why. Because someone said, and I was actually thinking in my head for DC because I wanted to ask this question. I thought it was a good chat question, right?
That's
so
good.
Sean V goes, I never play a batter after a double dong night. That's just be tough, or though. That just be though. I don't know what he's trying to say. But my question to you, DC, is what do you do with the double home run? Do you jump back on? Do you jump off? How do you handle that? Because I think Perez is in a great spot. I mean, JT brought up good points. It's Matt Shoemaker goodbye tour, right? I want to see Salvador Perez hit another dong. Is it a hot streak? What are you doing here with Salvador Perez, and how do you handle double home run days?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a 2021 hot streak for Salvador Perez, right? He's been raking all year. He's up to 14 home runs. I loved him last night. He was in my core, and then I took him out for Carson Kelly, who also hit a home run. There were people arguing on Twitter, I didn't see the update, because then they stuck with Salvador Perez. He ended up hitting 2, obviously, so he was the better play. But yeah, he's a great play again. He's by far the top catcher, I think, on this slate. And, in terms of, I don't know, it's probably a good thing, right, that he had 2 home runs yesterday. He's obviously seeing the ball well, feeling healthy, all that stuff. So if anything, I like to roster players that I know are currently feeling good, and that's obviously Salvador Perez. So, yeah, I think even on FanDuel at 3K, he's an excellent play. You can, play him at the util or first base catcher spot. He's got a really, really strong history against Matt Shoemaker. Again, I'm not a huge, batter versus pitcher, BVP type guy, but 17 plate appearances against Shoemaker, just 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 3 doubles, an OPS of 1,600. And he just profiles really well because Shoemaker, his best pitch is that splitter. Everything's over the plate, right? It's north and south. He doesn't have a slider that Perez can kind of wave at outside of the zone. Just looks like a tremendous matchup for me for Perez. He's hit him well in the past. He's hot right now. Best catcher on the slate by far, I think.
Yeah, JT, maybe you touched upon this earlier and I missed it and wasn't paying attention, but what would you do with the double home runs? I think you're someone who fades them. I think you hate getting on the hot streak, but I don't know. Let's get your take on this.
It depends. It's not so much, it's about the matchup, right?
If the matchup is good again, then sure, yeah.
Yeah, he hit two home runs yesterday. Even at 5-1, I don't need him to hit 2 home runs, right? He gets on, he goes 3 for 5 and they score a bunch of runs because I think we all think the Royals are going to score a bunch of runs. And if they do that, Sal Perez is going to have a good night. Is he going to be the best, and on a 15-game slate, right? You can get kind of caught up and say, well, is he going to be the best points? Maybe, maybe not. He's in a great spot. I mean, it's different if he hit 2 home runs last night and tonight, let's say he was facing, a Barrios type guy, right? Someone who actually can strike a couple of batters out. Then I would be a little bit like, maybe I want to go somewhere else. So I'm looking more at which catchers are offensive-minded catchers who are in really good spots. Sal Perez fits that bill tonight.
All right, let's head on over to the first base position. We're at the top. You go to Coors Field and you just see Matt Olson there, and you have to think against John Gray. If there's one guy that's banging one out, right? If you told me I can only take one guy, I think I'd be taking Matt Olson in this entire game, right? He is one of the best hitting spots in this entire game. DC, what are you doing here with Matt Olson at that 5.3K price? Are you playing him or are you fading him?
I would certainly play him in cash games. I think he's the top overall hitter, perhaps on this entire slate, certainly at the first base position. But this is one of those spots where he just sticks out so much, right? Everybody wants to play Matt Olson. He's going to be the highest owned first baseman. There's no question. There's no question on this slate. He will be the highest owned first baseman. And anytime I know that for sure, I usually try to look away. And, it's not like John Gray's been bad this year. He's pitched pretty well. This isn't some super cake matchup for Matt Olson. So tremendous play. Just know he's going to be 30+% owned when there are 20 first basemen to choose from. I think the pivot is going similar upside to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who will be, a quarter of the ownership. Maybe even less, right? You put Olson at 30%. I think you'll see Vlad below 10% is my guess. Against Zach Greinke, people see the Greinke name. They don't want to roster Vlad. Greinke's been hit pretty hard by same-handed hitters, right-handed hitters these last couple of years. He's not the same pitcher he once was. His greatest skill is he doesn't walk anybody. You roster Vlad Guerrero, you're happy to get a bunch of strikes, right? You don't want to walk anyway if you're paying $5,500 for a first baseman. So, yeah, give me Vlad over Olson in GPPs for sure.
All right, I got a couple things to touch on here. One, we got Swipe and Mixes asking in the chat, any value plays at catcher, guys? So, JT, clearly there's someone else who's falling asleep more than me on this, listening to this show. And then
falling asleep.
Yeah, because he didn't hear Tyler Stevenson twice, which we could address it again here at first base if we like, because he got that multi-eligibility.
I plan to.
So you could touch on that, but I do want you to touch on something else. Daryl's asking a good question. And again, you said that you like the Angels this week, and it's a good time to get on them. And Daryl's asking Olson over Walsh. So what would you do with that in the first base position altogether?
Yeah, so I think first base is pretty and you expect this, right? On a 15-game slate, first base is loaded offensively, right? You have Vlad Guerrero, I actually like quite a bit. You think about it this way. You got Zach Greinke going on the road. I mean, Zach Greinke has had one good game all year. That was against Seattle, right? So we know that Seattle, and that was when everybody was injured too, I think. So went up to T-Mobile Park where it's a pitcher's park and pitched really well. Now they go on the road. They take that hideous bullpen with them. And Zach Greinke is basically going to throw eephus pitches to the team that's been best against right-handed pitching over the last 3 weeks and for most of the season. So I agree with DC 1,000% on that Vlad Guerrero call. The other guys, Tyler Stevenson, as you mentioned, you could pay down. I think if I'm using Stevenson, and I will probably have him in at least one lineup, just that price is just way too cheap for this matchup. I'll probably use him in the catcher slot. But I think you can look out west. I think you can look at Jared Walsh, right? He gets a matchup against Robert Duggar, who isn't by any means on the level of any of the other pitchers that we're thinking about rostering tonight. I like the Angels a good bit last night, and I'll tell you, Justice Sheffield was able to put like about 15 or 16 men on base and weasel out of it every single inning. I don't expect Duggar to have that same luck tonight. And then Anthony Rizzo. Kazmir is starting this game. Lefty-lefty matchup for Rizzo against very few lefties would bother me. Against Kazmir, I'm not bothered at all. I think it was Max Muncy took him deep twice in the first game that he pitched. So there's a number of plays. Mostly, I think Walsh is probably the lowest at 4-3 that I would think about here.
Yeah, before we move on to the second base position, DC, we got someone in the chat. I kind of want to save him, but I want to get your take. He goes, it's the year of BVP Brad Miller night. I mean, against Max Scherzer, we can't do that, right? But he's 5 for 10 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, like also 5 strikeouts, right? I mean, it is Mr. Ricky Bobby first or last there for him. So DC, what do you do? Brad Miller night, we probably stay away from that, correct?
I don't hate it, to be honest. I like, rostering power lefties against Max as a one-off if you're not rostering Max. Listen, 3 home runs and 10 plate appearances, I don't care. That means something to me, right? That's 3 home runs and 10 plate appearances against Max Scherzer. So, yes, he's going to be 1 or 2% owned against the most popular pitcher. He clearly can do it. He's done it 3 times in 10 chances. So, I have no problem with it, to be honest.
Yeah, and Rachel Jordan is suggesting a new nickname for K Falick. It's now K on Fleek. I won't have you answer that, Draft G. We'll have JT. Do you like that nickname, JT? K on Fleek. Are we in?
I mean, I'm gonna come up with a more derogatory nickname here in a little while because he
doesn't deserve that.
No, he's not on fleek, right? Let's just be honest. He's not a cool millennial.
He's not on TikTok posting videos of his charts and
he's trying to make the argument that Zach Greinke, I think what he's trying to do is saying he's a decent real life pitcher.
Okay.
Fine. I don't know. I mean, against this team,
better than decent real life hitter is Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, it's sort of like what's he got, DC? That's going to hold these guys in check, right?
I love Toronto tonight.
I don't know, Kevin. Come on, Kevin. It's upsetting me today.
Let's keep this thing moving before Kevin magically pops in here. Like he's like
you're getting an overtime bill for me after baseball season because all these shows are going way over the hour, man. I'm on a very, very strict schedule over here.
And I got to get to a game, so I got to make lineups and get to a game.
Yeah,
guys. Okay, fine. Well, hurry it up. My bad.
Come on.
Second base is quick, I think. Ryan McMahon, Jed Lowry, DC. Hit me with it. What are you doing at second?
Yeah, McMahon, if he's in there, I think is the top guy. I do like Max Muncy in Atlanta. The ball's going to be flying there. I really wanted to play Jazz Chisholm and still might do it, but the fact they moved him down to 6th, for one, is just weird to me. And what's this guy done to deserve being moved down in the order for a guy that just up from the minor leagues? It's just kind of bizarre. It almost makes me worried about Chisholm, but I still like him at 4,800. I think that will certainly lower his ownership. I love stacking or playing guys against Mitch Keller. Albies is on fire right now. I know Urias is a good pitcher, but he smashes lefties, and you get a discount, right? 4,300 for what Albies is producing from his better side of the plate at low ownership. I think he makes for a pretty fun play. If you think Castillo legitimately sucks, you got to take a look at Tommy Edman, who's been crushing it all year long. I think this mostly looks like a spend up position. I'll throw in my guy Josh Rojas. Been cooling off a little bit recently, but you'll get him at 1 or 2% ownership, I think, leading off against Freddie Peralta, who does give up hard contact at times to lefties. So bunch of options at second base for sure.
All right, JT, let's blast off and get this thing to the moon and hurry this show up. Second base, who is taking us to the moon here? Who do you got? Jed Lowry, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the DC, I will say the other thing that I'm interested in, and we saw this, what the Cardinals just did in that series is every time they got a runner on second, they were often, every time they got a runner on first, they were often trying to run. And I don't know if that's something they picked up with the staff as a whole, because it didn't seem as if it was, relative to one pitcher, but definitely interested in I'll be some at that price. But I do think the top play is McMahon in Colorado if he's in there. Outside of the guys DC named, I think you can look at Whit Merrifield. Didn't really get there for us last night, but he gets Shoemaker tonight. And then, this Cleveland Indian team, I don't know that I want to stack them, but they do have a matchup against Keegan Aiken and
Owen Miller, right, at 2,300. Were you going to mention him?
Who's that?
Sorry, Owen Miller is a good punt here, too, at 2,300 on the Indians, but maybe you're going to mention someone else.
I was going to say Hernandez leading off. Yeah. He's expensive. He's 5'2", but he's been on fire, and he doesn't get a lot of attention, I guess, because it's in Cleveland, and they've been playing their games off of the main slates, but had a double dong night a couple of games ago, and he gets Keegan Aiken and that really, really bad Orioles bullpen.
Real quick, no McMahon in the lineup. So they go Tapia, Daza, Blackman, Fuentes, Crone, Hampson, Rogers, Diaz, and Gray, which we can talk about third base now with that. So third base, McMahon's obviously someone you can roster there, but what are you guys doing there at this position? Because it's not one that I love. You go first, DC.
Top two guys for me, Rafael Devers in Yankee Stadium against King, who doesn't seem to have much. I mean, Devers just been crushing it all year long. Obviously, a good hitting environment. Make sure the weather's okay. It should be. And then Jose Ramirez, obviously hitting third against Aiken, who's not any good. Great hitters park in Baltimore, nice and warm, all that good stuff. So hard to go wrong with those top two guys. Does look like a bit of a spend position to me, to be honest. Eugenio Suarez leading off. Been a rough season for him, but he crushes lefties. Nice and warm in St. Louis, as it is pretty much everywhere. So I guess I don't need to say that with every hitter. But yeah, Suarez, I mean, the power is still there. I know it's been a struggle for him, but I do think he will still end up, with 30, 40 home runs when it's all said and done. And this looks like a pretty good spot to get one. So yeah, I think for the most part, probably spending at third base, though, with one of hopefully Ramirez or Rafael Devers.
Yeah, just a heads up, my good friend John Blake has sent me a text. He said Globe Life Field will be closed. So there we go.
There we go.
Closed, so that helps Gibson.
Kyle Gibson. Let's go, baby.
There you go. JT, give me your third baseman. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'll add a couple of guys. Anthony Rendon, all the way down to 4K now. Started to heat up a bit. He's against Duggar and that Seattle bullpen out there. And then it's interesting. We haven't talked about them at all, and it's probably mostly due to that park and the coolness of the weather at night. But Padres get to take on Joey Lucchesi. And outside of his surprise performance against Miami, where we all thought he was going like 3 innings, but Manny Machado, 5-2 against Lucchesi.
Yeah, former pitcher too, right? That they used to go against. So, hey, that could have obviously Narrative Street, right? You got to live there, JT. It's your favorite spot to be. Let's go on over though to the shortstop position where, hey, let's go back to Narrative Street. Fernando Tatis against Joey Lucchesi, because that's the reason he's going to have a good game, not because he's one of the best players on the planet right now. JT, give me your shortstops.
Yeah, so absolutely, that's certainly a play, but go right back to that Cleveland lineup that I talked about. Ahmed Rosario, really good against left-handed pitching. He'll get Keegan Aiken. You can, I mean, Swanson. So I'm kind of talking myself into at least having a lineup here that has some of these Braves and Dodgers, because Swanson.
Here we go. Yeah, talk yourself into it. You're going to the game.
It's going to be his core back. JT's core is going to be a game stack.
Yeah.
So Swanson's been tearing the cover off the ball.
This whole team has, man, outside of Freeman.
The whole team. You're right. The whole team has. I think Gary shared something in Discord about the fact that the Braves have the highest ISO, I believe, over the last.
They're clicking right now, man. I kind of like them against Urias. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So Dansby at 4K, but more interesting than Dansby is obviously it's against the GOAT Zach Greinke, but Bo Bichette at 4.5 is a very, very intriguing price that I might have to have in my lineups there. So like those two guys, Jorge Polanco is all of a sudden shortstop eligible. What else do we have? Kyle Farmer, if you're going to stack up the Reds, Kyle Farmer at 2.1 makes that work. I don't think I'm going to stack the Reds. I think I'm going to pick a one-off here just because of the park and the fact that Kim, while not a great pitcher, does throw a lot of ground balls. And then you got Javier Baez in that Cubs lineup against Scott Kazmir in the San Francisco bullpen. And you mentioned Tatis, so that's it.
Yeah, tons of ways to go. Your Twins, you can go with a Jorge Polanco. If you would like DC, you can go with my boy, Timmy Anderson, right? I wouldn't hate it, but not my favorite play to go today. Shortstop, it's okay. It's not the best today, but it's not the worst. What are you doing here, DC?
Yeah, Tatis is pretty much always a top option, right? Until further notice, or unless he's got some, facing Max Scherzer or something, right? But like against Luke Cage, like he's just a beat. I mean, he's got 17 home runs and 12 steals. Like he's just incredible. He's lapping the field in fantasy points per game. So if you can afford him, get Tatis in your lineup, and that holds true pretty much every damn night. He's incredible. A couple other guys that weren't mentioned. Brandon Crawford swinging a very, very good bat this year. I know he's in San Francisco. Abnormally strong winds there. I don't know how much that will affect the flight of the baseball in San Francisco, but 23 mile per hour winds straight out to center field. It's normally like 12 or 13 there. So maybe if you get one up there, it'll be flying out. I mean, the dude's got 12 home runs on the year. He's crushing it. And he gets Jake Arrieta, one of my very favorite pitchers to target left-handed hitters against. So I like Crawford there at 3,700. And I'll throw in Big T's guy, Freddie Galvis, free money Freddie, against Mejia, a rookie pitcher. I don't think he's that great. 3,500 for Galvis. Cleanup for the Orioles. I like the Orioles stack quite a bit. He looks like a good option as well.
All right, we'll move on to the outfield. And J10 is asking who's on the cash chart. You got to sign up at Run Pure Sports. Use that code RPSHeater25. You get 25% off. Also, you can check out the premium show with Big T and JSU and Holden leading you up to lock. But let's go on and talk about the outfield. JT, I'll go to you first. It looks like Christian Yelich, he's a good play today. Seth Brown in Coors Field could be a great play. What are you doing, JT, in the outfield?
Yeah, I mean, again, 15 games, it's a loaded slate. One thing I was just looking at, we talked about DC talked about Devers against Michael King. The Red Sox get a pretty significant park upgrade here, going from Houston into New York. Michael King is a guy who's probably only going to pitch 3 innings, and then you're going to have that Yankee bullpen, which has not been very good. In fact, yesterday continued to get lit up as the Rays took advantage of them after they dispensed with Garrett Cole. And you've got Verdugo up top in the 2-hole at 3.
Why is he so cheap? What is DraftKings doesn't like this guy? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, but he's 3-3 against.
He's been 3-3 for like a week.
Yeah. And it's just in that park with the short porch to left field. And with that, it's a bottom 10 bullpen the last few weeks, this New York Yankee bullpen. So that's an interesting play there. You move down, you've got Harold Ramirez and Eddie Rosario for Cleveland, 3-3 and 4-1 respectively. I don't want to ignore the Baltimore side because, Giancarlo Mejia is a rookie making his second start. Mullins is 4.0. Santander is 3-1. Just going down at games that I like that I'm targeting. I will say the Toronto outfield is just all a little bit higher price than I really am looking for 2 guys from the same team. But I think if I was looking at one, it'd be Teoscar at 4.8. And then moving down, you've got Benintendi at 3.9. Hunter Dozier is 3.0. Castellanos is 3.9. Castellanos, this whole Reds team, I don't know. DC talked to me about this. You think this is a trap that this Reds team is so cheap? I mean, you could easily stack this team if you wanted to do a 3 or 4 man, get 2 10 or 11K pitchers and have plenty left over to go Coors, Toronto, the Atlanta Dodger game, whatever you wanted to do. And that bullpen behind him has been bottom 5 for the entire season. So Castellanos, Naquin at 3.1. The red spot I'm sort of coming around to here.
I like it. I'm not a huge believer in Kwang Young Kim, to be honest. Now, I kind of been wrong about that, right? I've tried to stack against him a few times. It generally hasn't worked out. So take that for what it is. But these guys are discounted, all of them. The whole lineup is discounted. You know what I mean? From in my opinion, kind of what they should be. So I'll probably stick to that top 4: Suarez, Winker, Castellanos, Stevenson. The guys beyond that, I don't have a ton of faith in, but you can go with the wraparound, right? Blandino's stone minimum 2K. You can play him in there if you want to. I mean, all the guys that I'm saying to avoid, I would actually, I'll take that back. I would take one of these guys because they're all under 3K. Choose one. I just don't. Yeah,
Indian's been hitting the ball very hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch of ways to go. Yeah. That's a good way to go. I mean, outfield obviously loaded, right? It kind of always is. You're going to get a discounted ownership for sure on Ronald Acuna tonight. No one's going to play him against Julio Urias. I mean, that's fine, but you turn on this game, you'll be there, JT. When Ronald Acuna steps to bat, I'm not that scared of Julio Urias. You know what I mean?
I will say, no, not at all. And I will say this. I mean, this is a potential, the way these two teams are playing, right? These are the teams that met in the NLCS last year, right? So this is it's a rematch of that. This is two teams that are projected to possibly meet again in October if the Braves can find someone to pitch for them. But I mean, I think there's a lot of options here. Just like, I don't know much about Scott Heineman, but he's 2.6K hitting in the 5-hole in that same game.
Sure.
And then you look at, again, go back to Los Angeles. You've got, I think Justin Upton is probably the only guy that I would use in the outfield here. And then it looks like the Cubs guys are priced up. You got Bryant at 5'8". It's a great matchup, but it's not a great park. So 5'8" maybe just outside of the realm that I want to pay. And Will Myers, to close it off with Will Myers, 3.7 if he's in that 5 or 6 hole against Lucchesi. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, a few cheap guys you can look at if you need the savings. Anthony Santander hitting third for Baltimore tonight against Mejia in what could be kind of somewhat of a bullpen game for them. Like him a ton if you need the savings. Other guys to consider, at least DJ Stewart. Same Baltimore. I like that Baltimore outfield, that left-handed outfield. He's 2,600. He's got power. Heineman's right there with him. I think I prefer Stewart, but if you're stacking the Reds, I would lean Heineman. And then Danny Santana. I don't know why Boston is leading him off. I mean, the dude is not a very good hitter, but he's 2,400. He's a switch hitter. He's leading off against King in New York. He's got to at least be in consideration, right? First base, outfield eligible. I actually think you'll see a lot of people go to him. I don't mind it. If you told me he's going to be super popular, I'd probably look elsewhere myself. Trevor Larnach for the Twins. He's had some strikeout issues for sure early on, but he also has massive, massive power. He's got a couple home runs already that were 460 feet plus. Really warm in KC. He's hitting 5th against Brad Keller, who struggles against lefties. He looks like a good option. I think that's pretty much it. But some good cheap guys there if you need them, if you're going double spin up with the Scherzer, Wheeler type build, something like that.
All right, listen, we are at 165 likes. We got to get those up if we're going to give away the play. So we're going to go to the stacks. You better hit that like button quick.
Let's get up to 200, guys. Come on.
Yeah, get it to 200. I mean, these guys said they're ready to get on out of here. So I'm definitely down to hold the plays. We'll post them in the Discord, though, of course. We'll definitely be nice and do that. Give me your stacks, DC. Kick it off for us.
Stacks today. I like the Blue Jays against Zach Greinke. I think they're going to do some work. I like that they're right-handed heavy. I think most people will think that is a bad thing against Zach Greinke. I think the opposite. So love the Blue Jays. I think you'll get them pretty low owned too, which is obviously, a plus. I like the Braves. I really do. Against Julio Urias, a lot of respect for him as a pitcher. This is a tough spot going into Atlanta. It's warm, it's humid, different weather than he's used to pitching in, and the Braves are hot right now. A lot of power from the right side, so I like them quite a bit. And then give me the Royals, though. I really, really like them against Matt Shoemaker. We kind of think he's on his last legs. Super warm in Kansas City. Ball's going to be flying there. I like the Royals a ton. And, I mean, the A's for sure. Obviously, John Gray, they got a team total in year 6. You got to include them. But I probably will have less exposure to the A's than the field does.
Yep, they got 10 more likes to go. I got faith they can get it done. So push that home, guys. Reds and Royals are my two. I've been riding those Royals
They've been
all
good.
Yeah. I'm going to probably stick with them. JT, how about you? Give me your stacks.
Yeah, I like the Reds. I like the Royals as well. I like pieces of this game in Baltimore a good bit as well here. You've got two. I think Aiken's maybe a second or third year pitcher, but two younger pitchers. And I like Cleveland a little bit more because the offensive side, their bullpen obviously much better than the Orioles bullpen. I do like Toronto as well, and yeah, that's kind of it. I do like the one-offs in Colorado. I don't mind pieces on the Colorado side with Montes there. And then I think you do have to look at the Angels and you have to look at the Cubs. I mean, Scott Kazmir is pitching in the major league for the first time in I don't know how many years. And this is a team that has been hitting well of late. They kind of obviously dropped off a little bit last night in a tougher matchup in a tougher park. But Kazmir is not a tough matchup at all. And then the Angels against Robert Duggar. I think they're going to be very low owned, and I think there's certainly some pieces there, Upton, Rendon, Walsh, that are appealing to me.
Yeah, the only cashmere that would look good is a cashmere sweater on you, JT. How's that sound? A nice little cashmere sweater. We'll put that on, and they'll look beautiful in that. That's the only thing that could look good right now.
We need some RPS luxury material.
I'm still looking for a T-shirt, man. What about when are we talking about luxury material? I'm just looking for a T-shirt or a hat over here.
Well, I mean, you got the Manscaped equipment. I got shirts. I would take a lawnmower.
We can do some bartering in the Discord tonight.
Yeah, I would take a lawnmower 4.0 over another hoodie. I have plenty of hoodies for when it gets chilly out.
Right. JT's looking for some Manscaped stuff. DC is looking for a shirt. The guys in the chat, they're looking for the plays, right? 205 likes. So we got it home. We'll go to you first. DC, give me your play of the day.
He's expensive, but I don't think he'll be highly on. I'm going with my guy, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., taking Greinke deep. Not once, but twice in this one. Double dong for Vladimir Guerrero. Going to give you 30+ DraftKings points at I think sub 10% ownership. I'll say I'm pretty confident in that. Maybe sub 5. So Vladimir Guerrero, my mom's basement play of the day tonight.
All right, I will give you my play of the day, and I'm going with the Royal, and one that's been hitting pretty well, and he feels kind of dusty at times, but he's treated me well, and he's been playing well, is Andrew Benintendi. People won't be playing him, and I think it's a pretty good spot. The lefty against Shoemaker could get it done. JT, we'll go to you. Give me your play of the day.
Yeah, I'm surprised, Mango, and actually, I'm proud. I thought you were going to say Whit Merrifield, and we were going to have to say, well, wait a second. I mean, are we allowed to use guys who are going to be, 60% owned? And
it is not going to be 60%.
I know. I'm exaggerating. Just leave me alone. All right. I've been abused.
We're on our way to the Eiffel Tower. We'll leave you alone.
I've been on the defensive all show. I mean, I try and spice things up and wear a nice hat, and the people, they just can't handle it. Some of them, it's just hurtful. It's just hurtful. But I'll get on because we have plans. We have a life. We have a Friday night where we're not going to be ignoring or arguing with strangers on the internet. And I'm excited to get around to doing that. Every now and then, there's a price that just jumps off the page at you. And you say, my goodness, this matchup, this player should not be this cheap. I mean, this is a guy that was like $6K 2.5 weeks ago. He was $6K on DraftKings. He's facing one of the worst left-handed pitchers in the league, Nick Castellanos at 3.9.
Yep. As they say in Happy Gilmore, the price is wrong, right? I mean, that 3.9K, you cannot ignore it. It's a great play. Absolutely love it. I think I'll be getting some exposure to him on my teams. DC, final thoughts, and then we will get on out of here.
Yeah, not a lot. I think it's a pretty tight pool of pitching. For me, Max Scherzer leads it off, and a lot of different places you can go with hitting. Don't get sucked into playing the super chalk tonight. If you can identify the chalk, I think it's a good slate to try to get a little bit away from it because there are so many good spots tonight.
When you said don't play the chalk, the dog was barking, which means dogs are going to be barking tonight. So do not.
Now I'm back on the chalk. The dog's barking. He was upset about that suggestion.
All right. Well, we got to get on out of here, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Mangone, DC, and JT. See you guys later.